Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Travis and we have been doing a series on this 1948 Chevy pickup truck. And the matter that is most pressing right now is we need an engine for this truck. If you haven't watched the previous videos, go check them out after this to really get up to speed as to where we're at. But to make a long story short, the original 216 engine that was in it was completely trashed, had a rod knocking. So we took it out and the executive decision was made to swap it with a 235. Well, we think we found a 235 here locally in Tucson. So let's go over to his property, check it out, see if he has one, and if we think we can use it, we'll buy it, freshen it up, put it in here, and she'll have a nice, fresh, good, reliable engine. So we went down to this gentleman's yard and looked around for a little bit, and at first we found some like GMC and Ford inline sixes that weren't obviously 235s, and we did find the engine that he thought was a 235 that he said he had. Well, this is not a 235, this is a later model Chevy inline six, but we did find a 235 way here in the corner, like by the wall, and he wanted 225 bucks for it. There's the engine, there's the 4-speed transmission, and this one is a 59 model, so it's a 59 later model 235, but we don't know the history of it, the condition of it, or anything like that, so that's what we have to figure out.
Ready?
All right, go ahead and let it down. Let it down. So I am the proud new owner of a 235 cubic inch non-Babbitt motor. That was the whole reason for this swap, guys. If you remember in the first episode, obviously the 216 had a rod knocking, even though it runs like a sewing machine. Just, you know, got a rod knocking, can't do it. So I figured I'd upgrade, and although all the engine oil and caked on dirt doesn't look like much of an upgrade, this is a massive upgrade. The 235 had insert bearings, not Babbitt bearings. It had a full pressure oiling system. A lot of you that mess with these trucks probably already know the deal as to why I did this, but long story short, it's a big upgrade from the 216. And the reason that I picked a 235 instead of doing a V8 swap, because you might think, well, if the 216's trashed, I mean, it would be a way better upgrade to put a V8 in it or something like that. Well, that adds a whole other host of problems. Is you're going to have to find a different radiator, you're going to have to get a cross member support for the engine mounts for a V8, you're going to have to change the transmission, you're going to have to put mounts in for that, you're going to have to do a driveline, and then you got to get rid of the torque tube because it's still a torque. I mean, you got everything down the line is going to be jacked with. This right here is the least invasive, best upgrade that I can do. And I got this whole menagerie for $2.25, and the reason I got it for $2.25 is because it's locked up, just like this one was. So I'm just a big fan of locked up motors here. The 235s will bolt in almost directly because the 235s and the 216s were made at around the same time, so they kind of had a lot of interchangeability. So the engine mount up front is the same. It will bolt up to the flywheel and the transmission that's in this truck. The only difference that I've read about online is the not the flywheel, the fan. This fan pulley is a little different, and it comes out a little further forward than this one. Dad might be doing some measuring. See how this one's a lot more snubbier? So everything else bolts up, but the water pump is just too long and it'll hit the radiator. So we'll have to figure something out with that. Not too sure yet, but this is not the first time that this has been attempted, so we'll figure it out. And how we figured out what year it was you can look right here. Let me show you guys. I was trying to figure out what kind of motor this was in the yard before I bought it. And I was having a hard time because there's numbers right here, right, F09, whatever. And then there's some numbers right here. And then what I read was the numbers right here. So if you get this out of the way, there's numbers behind the starter. They had numbers A through L for the 12 months of the year. This is I, meaning it was made in June 16th of 59, which is good. Just exactly what I wanted, exactly what I needed. Some of the early 235s were still Babbitt motors, low pressure, just like the 216s. So it's just all these technicalities that you want to check out before you whatever. So got the correct motor is the point. We're going to find out just how locked up it is, because I couldn't turn it with the fan.
I think I seen it move.
Did you?
Yeah.
There we go. We just didn't have enough force to move it by the fan. Yeah, there we go.
A little tight.
A little tight. Oh, these are loose. They're loose. It's not really a good sign, I guess. My wife got me a one of those bore scopes you can look down in stuff with for Christmas, so we'll give it a little try. Never have used one. So cylinder number 1 doesn't look too bad. Has some rust around the sidewalls, possibly sat open. Cylinder number 2 looked pretty bad. It had some very significant rust on the sidewalls, and look at this goop over here on the side. I'm not even really sure how that happens. But this was a cylinder where the valve was probably open while it sat. Cylinder number 3 does not look too bad, actually. The sidewalls don't look bad. The piston has some carbon buildup, but, you know, it's to be expected. Cylinder number 4 is about the same. This one, the piston's all the way down. You can get a good look at the sidewalls. Pretty clean, little bit of surface rust, but nothing too significant. That would run. Looking at cylinder number 5, there's definitely some significant surface rust on these cylinder walls. Some carbon buildup on the piston, but kind of like the others also. And last cylinder, number 6, can't really get a good look at because it's like almost at top dead center. So we'll just have to move on.
Drop things off at the machine shop and probably expect to pick it up within a couple of days. You know, head's done, crank turned, or dropping the block off and having a hot tank board, all that within a couple, 3 days. I'm picking it up and going back together with it. It ain't that way now. I mean, you drop it off and 2-3 weeks later you pick it up.
Now we're in neutral.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm pretty sure.
You got this bolt.
What bolt? Oh, you know what? I took out the wrong ones. What am I even doing?
Boy, look how clean that motor is.
It's very clean up top.
Yeah, nice one.
There you go. Will it come out now? Oh, no, still hard. There was 2 bolts underneath the flywheel cover that come in from the other side that I didn't see, so we got those, and do the top 2 and this should come off. There's a transmission.
Motor. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it. Here is our pilot bushing.
Oh, it ain't throw out here.
I'm sorry. No, our pilot bushing's in there. Throwout bearing.
I mean, what if you get this thing all done and you want to do a road trip in it?
That'd be fun.
You know what I mean? You want that old motor in there, you know? Or get that 2x4 over there.
This has been off before because some of these have these washers on them, these locking kind of washers, but some of them don't. Somebody's had this apart.
See? Don't hit your concrete.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
Let that thing down.
another one.
So after thinking about it and mulling it over in my head, you know, there's two ways to go about it. Just throw this in there and see if it works, and if it runs, then great, and deal with it once it's in there, or pressure wash it, take it apart, do a light rebuild on it, right? Rings, rod bearings, main bearings, gasket set, maybe do the heads, and actually freshen it up for real and make it a decent motor. And instead of just throwing it in there and hoping for the best, because we did get it to unlock, you know, turns really good now. I think what I'm going to do for the first time in this channel's history is rebuild the motor. We'll blow it all apart, we'll take it apart, and we'll rebuild it. We'll do like a poor man's rebuild. We'll get a master seal kit, we'll hone it, and Dad actually has a valve grinding machine that he bought way back in the day. So we actually have the capacity ourselves to cut the seats, cut the valves, and we'll have a nice motor. It will extend the life of this truck tremendously. On top of the engine itself being a decent upgrade, rebuilding it is just kind of the cherry on top. So let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned off. Got my pressure washer right there, and then we'll go ahead and start taking it apart. Now I've said this before on here, but I like to use Easy Off oven cleaner, degreaser for engine blocks and stuff like that. Got the heavy stuff off with the pressure washer, and now I just go over it wherever the greasy spots are. Hit it with some Easy Off, let it set for a bit, loosen that grease up, see, like right here, and you know what, I might as well, see, that would have been a problem. We'd have got it in the truck and all this, been happy as a pig, and you'd have leaked all your water out. Doing freeze plugs in the motor can be done, but it's just a pain. So I'll probably pop a few of these freeze plugs out, pressure wash the block out while we're doing this before we take it all apart. And then once you take it apart, you don't want to get water everywhere, so while things are halfway sealed up, we'll do it now. I got one more can sitting on my shelf in the inventory. There's not actually a lot of caked on grease on this oil pan, which I'm surprised about. Usually that gets the brunt of it. Before I clean this, I just wanted to show you what was in here. See that? If you would have just said, no big deal, just put it in there and run it, look what you'd have been shoving through that water jacket. And also, check out the back. I busted the back freeze plug out. You would have filled this up with water, and that's what you would have been shoving through the motor. dig into this. We're going to take the intake and exhaust off as a unit together. Pop this bad boy off, pop the valve cover off, and then start in here. But we'll take this off first. If I can, I always try to put everything back where it was instead of taking this and setting it down. I personally just like to put it here so you have it and you haven't lost it. When you go to look for it, it's right where it really should be. Impact won't fit here. I doused these with WD-40, so we'll give this a shot. See if we can get a 9/16. Okay. It's on 2 dowel pins on either side to guide it, which is kind of cool. Just like that. Oh, we're still caught on something. Oh, I see. Let's try and save that clip. There's the intake and exhaust manifold. Lay that down right there. Put all these bolts back. Just make a habit of doing that. You know where they are, and you're not looking for them in a bag or in the bed of a truck. Let's see, these come off. I put this cover back on just so I could pressure wash it, but just put 2 screws back in it. Plus, it doesn't matter too much if we get a little water in there because we're not letting the motor sit, so it's not really gonna hurt it all too much. We're taking it apart. Oh, see, I still got water in there. Oh well. Nice. We should probably go middle out, just like how you put them on, middle out. And these are one directional, so you can't obviously flip them the other way. So I would mark them like F, R, front, rear, but there's only one way to put these on. That'll come off like that. Set these right here in the valve cover. Got our valves, our push rods. Okay. All right, is there anything stopping us from doing this? Nothing's hooked from bottom to top, all around. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Should be good to... Okay, where am I going to put this once I get it off? Let's think about this. I should put it on the new workbench, right? Because if we do the valves, we take the valves apart and the head apart, we're going to need that. We should not put this in the bed. And also, I want to mention, a lot of you who watch my videos know I work on the ground usually. I'll put stuff on the ground and whatever, and I've been needing a workbench, and a subscriber reached out to me named Bruce and gave me this workbench. He said, look, I just want you to have it. I don't have a use for it, and just take it. So I very much appreciate this workbench. I've been looking for a steel one. Wood just does not cut it for what I do around here, so brand new to me, 6-foot workbench, perfect for what I do around here. So thank you, Bruce, for this workbench, and thank him down in the comments for helping out the cause here. Let's turn on a light, and since this thing is conveniently on wheels, instead of me having to lug it around over there, let's just roll it there and take it off right next to it. Taking a look at these pistons. Yeah, we had crud covering the water jacket. Yeah. Yeah. It was crummy, but it got to turning over. But see that? I mean, it would have blew it out, but you know, it's good we're doing this. Pretty dirty. I mean, look at that. Wow. Yeah, she's dirty. I mean, she could use a good cleaning, valve job, head gasket. Yeah. Doubt we're gonna be needing that, but just in case, you know, save everything, right? we will be using this 100%. I'm sure it's 12 volts since this is a 59 motor. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Look what we would have been passing through that. I mean, even just this can plug up a few cores in a radiator. Look at this. Oh, geez. Yeah, we'll have to pressure wash this out again. Good thing we're doing this, right? If we're gonna do it right. Oh, oh, whoa. That cap looks beautiful on the inside. Nine and a half, 9.5. It's a little pea shooter. Oh. Hey. Well, okay. Well, maybe somebody's been in here before, which is also not a good sign. I don't know. Hopefully this thing isn't bored 60 over. Ta-da! Uh-oh. Okay, so we're gonna push these pistons out right now, and I want to be careful. This is important to get correct back the way it was put, where they were put. And I noticed on here, maybe you can't see it on the camera, but sometimes they're labeled, sometimes they're not. But the cap is labeled 1 and the rod is labeled 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down. And they are not labeled on the other side, so you can't reverse them. 1 and 1, every number's on the side of the distributor. So we can take these out, put them back together in the same spot in the same direction. And 4. Number 2. That was a tough one. Ooh. Oh, cool, it's gears. Nice. I don't know why, I was thinking I was gonna see a chain. I don't know. I've never rebuilt one of these, all right? Lay off. Well, oh, ha ha ha, I found it. Woo! Yeah, those valve seals are totally gone. They just crumbled in my hand. There it is. All right, so we got a few different tools going on this morning. We have a hone connected to the drill, and we also have a ridge reaming tool. So what we're doing with the hone is cleaning these cylinders out. See how there's rust and stuff right there? See how these are really dirty? Right, cylinder number 2 is the worst. Once we clean out all the cylinders, and what the ridge reaming tool does is get rid of the carbon ridge at the top. You see this area right here that looks like just plain metal? Carbon builds up there because the head of the piston comes to the top of the cylinder head, but the piston ring is a little bit beneath that. So as it's going up and down, it only reaches to here, top dead center, before it goes back down. So this area is unused. Barely. Oh, now that was like too much, but whatever. You never stick in one spot. You go up and down at a constant speed. And just as a side note, when I'm explaining things and what I'm doing, I'm not trying to assume that the viewer or you are dumb. I just don't know the level of expertise people have when they're watching my videos. Some people know exactly what tool I'm using before I even mention it, and some people have no idea what I'm doing. So I just try to explain it briefly so that everybody gets the gist of what's going on. I just wanted to, this one was really bad, so before I even tried to ring it, I wanted to see what it looked like.
So I'm going to show you something. Open the book. First couple of pages is going to be your engine specs.
So what Dad's showing me here is how to measure the rod journal on the crank to see if it's standard factory size. Because if this motor's been rebuilt a bunch of times and the crank has been cut and ground at a machine shop, the diameter changes and they cut it in. What Dad was doing with the book is showing me the factory measurements of the journals, and we were miking the factory journals on this crank to see if they match up or to see if this has been cut, regardless of what the bearings say or don't say on them. We would know for a fact. Because if they're cut so many times, you can't cut them anymore. Close it in. So we got 1 inch, we have 2 inch, we have 0.123, so we're at 2.3, and then this is your finest measurement above that even. 2.31, 2.32, 2.33, 2.34. We are at 2.31. If you can catch your finger on the ridges of these journals, that means that it needs to be cut. This needs to be smooth and completely without ridges. And I can catch, see how my finger is catching on some of these? Some of these are really bad. One of them was, yeah, this one, cylinder number 6. You can see it right there with your naked eye, but you can feel it with your finger. And some of these they're pretty worn out and they got some bad ridges in them. So I am going to have the crank cut because you can't put it together like that.
Now see if that camshaft will move.
Just not getting it square. There we go. Had to take the distributor out.
So, bring it over here. Let's check something real quick.
And this is a old tool from a lost art. My dad's had this for many, many years. This is a ridge reaming tool. So this is your cutting blade, this is your cutting edge, and you can back it out. As you turn this, this comes up, right? Comes up the threads and backs up, and as it's coming up, it's cutting that ridge off. See it? How it's all shiny now? Can't feel anything with my fingernail. That's a cleaned ridge. Take the blade back in. Now it'll spin freely. Go on to the next one. Alright, so what is the official consensus on this engine now that we have it all tore down and I've honed all the cylinders, and most of them came out pretty good. I would classify them as usable. I would not classify these as perfect. The only way to get this perfect would be to send it off to the machine shop, have the cylinders bored, have the deck trued up. But look, again, what did I say in the beginning? This is a poor man's rebuild. I mean, we don't have the money for all that stuff. I mean, when every step you take into the machine shop is just an open checkbook, all right? I mean, it's just, things can get out of hand really fast. I mean, the money you can spend on an engine just goes to infinity, really. You gotta like put your foot down at some point. The condition of this engine, it has a lot of miles on it and it's wore out. It's rebuildable, but it's a lot more wore out than I was kind of hoping. I was hoping I could get away with using a lot of things and not having to go to a machine shop at all. I dropped the crank off to have the rod journals and the mains turned. That's $225. Every single rod bearing is down to the copper plating, which means that they are definitely wore out. The main bearings are definitely wore out. All of the lifters are wore. They have cones in them, dips in them, concave, parabola, whatever you want to call it. They should be completely true and flat. We either need new lifters or have those ones resurfaced. The camshaft completely wore. The hard facing is gone. You can see it's dark. You can see the top of the lobe is shiny, which is what it should be, but the rest of the lobe is pretty much wore off. You can feel it with your finger. It's rough. It's pretty much every single lobe. The camshaft is wore out. And as far as the head goes, that is another story. There's good and bad news with that. We'll start with the bad news first. It is a lot rustier than I'd hoped. I don't even know if you could cut these valves. You'd probably have to put new valve seats in them if you could even do that. There's so much rust, especially on a few of these. You can see this is pretty bad. This is really bad. I mean, look at that. You can't even see the valve seat. You know, it's just really rusted out. And all of this came out of the head. So this used to be the head. So this head is in really rough shape. That is the bad news. Also, if you take a look at the valves, a few of these valves, I mean, these valves are not in good shape. But like this one, I mean, this one's rusted to the point of pitting right here and thinning. Look how thin that is. Look at this part and look at this part. I mean, this valve is very bad. You can't reuse that valve. So then you're stuck buying all new valves, all new valve seats. You're going to the machine shop. You're having it decked and magnafluxed and cut and valves and seats and all that stuff. That is an open checkbook. I can't do that. The good news is Dad comes to the rescue every single time. This is a supposedly rebuilt 235 head that he got with a 53 Chevy truck he bought like 12 years ago. They threw this head in and said it was our dad's truck, and he had this head redone supposedly, and he never used it. And my dad got it with the truck. When he sold the truck, he kept the head, but he's never built a 235. He's just had it sitting in his garage for like 12 years. So he said, here, use it if you can use it. And I'm like, yeah, I can use that. So this is a supposedly rebuilt head, but at least it's a 235. Even if it's not rebuilt, it is a 235 head in much better shape. Let's take a look at the valve side. Hold on. So all the valves and everything look pretty spectacular. It almost looks like they put new seats in it right here. See that? I mean, this might have been redone. Very possible. We don't have receipts, but looking at the condition of it, it looks clean enough to eat off of. This is the answer. This is essentially the answer. Thank Dad for this, because this saved me a lot of time and money having this. Total freak accident thing to have this. I don't know what it's going to cost for lifters and a cam. Not sure what I'm going to do there quite yet. By the time this is over, we're probably going to have like $1,000 in this thing, or a little more. All right guys, so while we're waiting for parts to come back for the engine, the cam, and the crank, we're going to get the cherry picker out. We're going to take this motor out because eventually we're going to need it out anyway. So while we have some downtime, might as well get after it. Take this upper hose off. So these are actually carriage bolts that hold the bottom of the radiator core support down. And you know, the carriage bolts have squares on the inside that stop them from turning because they don't have a hex head on top. They're round. Well, this square rounded off, and now it's just turning, and I really can't get it out because it just keeps turning, and I don't have a welder to tack weld it to itself so that I can stop it from turning. So I got a vice grip on it. We'll see if that does anything. No. and I'm out of oxyacetylene. I'm out of acetylene actually to cut it. Sucker. Got it. Oh. The lower hose is on. Forgot about that. Well, there's that. That was stupid. Right on my electric drill. And on a cord. You guys like my new creeper? My new creeper. Dad's actually had this as wall art for years, and he said, well, if you want to use it, just go ahead and use it. So here we go. We're using this old wooden Western Auto creeper. Lubied up the wheels, and I don't know. I mean, it's helpful for me. You know, since I don't have a lift to stand under, I mean, heck, this is the next best thing. Since I got concrete poured, I might as well use it to roll around on. 2 bolts that are holding the motor in the front motor mount, and there's 4 bolts holding it in the rear on the transmission. Typically, my train of thought is I take all the bolts around the bell housing to take a motor out by itself, but you take the 4 bolts off that bolt the bell housing to the transmission, and you pull the clutch, the flywheel, and the bell housing all out as a unit, which is a lot easier actually. And let's go 2 for 2. Bingo, baby. There we go. Just had to get a straight shot on it. There we go. There we go. There it is. Okay. Clutch, shifter, unhooked. There we go. All right. Is there anything else I'm missing? So I got all the bolts out. Amazingly, the temperature sender came unhooked. So I think I have everything unbolted. So nothing left to do but just try it. Huh. There we go. There it is. Well, it's on the ground. Oh, man. That was tougher than I thought. It was those 2 bolts on the side of the tranny mount that got me because one, They were in a hard to reach place. 2, they were nut and bolted, so you had to get to them from the top also, which sucks because it's down underneath. And 3, they had cotter pins through them. Cotter pins. So fighting those for like an hour. So it's done now. It's done and over. Alrighty, so we got the 216 off the floor and over here in the corner, because once we build the 235 and put it in here, I think we're definitely going to put this on the engine stand, and I want to see what happened, right? I want to see if it was really a rod knocking, which we're pretty sure it is, but like, you know, which rod, where's it at, what's the problem, what's going on in there, what's the condition of that motor. So once we get all done here, I think we'll put this there and do that. I got the clutch and the flywheel and all that sitting over there because I don't know how available those parts are, so I'm saving those. And what I'm doing right now, got my old Craftsman bench grinder turned on, and we're cleaning up all these bolts that we took out of the like this one right here. These are the bolts that bolted the transmission to the bell housing. All these little bolts right here are the bolts that held the radiator core support in, you know. And I definitely clean and reuse these old bolts, wire wheel the crud off of them and put them back on, because as long as the threads are good, I mean, they're still usable, you know, they're just as structurally sound as they were the day they were made. And even if the threads are messed up, you can still retap them. But I don't know, some people might think, oh, it's just a given, get new hardware, all new bolts, it'll be better. I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I've reused old bolts all my life. I've never had one come off or anything. And they're expensive. They're expensive. This bolt right here, this big old fat bolt that bolted the tranny to the bell housing, I mean, this is probably a $2.50, $3 bolt, you know. And then the lock washers to go along with it, so $2, $4, $6, $8 right there with tax, $10. Lock washers are another, for this bolt, 60, 70 cents a piece. I mean, you could spend, just on these bolts I'm cleaning up alone, 20, 25 bucks at Ace Hardware. I mean, it's ridiculous, you know. And you got to get in your truck and waste gas and wear and tear on your vehicle. So it's just like, nah, I clean them, take a little bit of time, wire wheel them, think about life, and put them back on when you're ready. And plus, some of these bolts are specialty or specific. Some of them have shoulders on them. Some of them are shaped a certain way, different thread pitches, different sizes. And you have to recreate all that when you go to the store to buy them. Whereas these are all pre-made the way they're supposed to be, the way that they were, and they're all the perfect lengths. Like, it's just easier to do this. More cost effective and efficient. And I just got the crank back from Gary's machine shop. You can see they did the mains and the rod journals. He did them 10-10. They were able to be cut 10-10. He didn't have to go over. So I was very happy about that. It looks really good. I'm really happy with the crank. Now all we have to do is wait for the camshaft to come back from Oregon Cam Grinding in Vancouver, Washington. It's way up there being ground right now. And kind of in the middle of all this, I'm just trying to do what I can do before I can assemble things. I'm taking the piston rings out, and you can kind of get the history of stuff when you're taking it apart. And I found something interesting. So right here you can see these rings are froze. These rings are froze to the piston. You can only see the piston head. So this would have been a dead hole if we would have tried to just stick it in and run it. So this is what they mean when someone says, oh, I'm trying to start this motor, but the rings are froze. The rings are froze. It won't run. It's got no compression, because those rings expand against the side of the cylinder wall and it doesn't let compression through. But since those are froze in, as the piston's coming up, that compression's just going on every single side. It's going into the engine, into the crankcase. It's not keeping it in the cylinder head. This is the next piston, piston number 3, and you can see here, obviously, that the rings are stuck out and they're kind of like big springs, right? See that? When you put that piston in and boom, you let that out against the cylinder wall, it seals all that compression in. So this one would have been a complete dead hole. You see how these pistons look? The skirts right here with the pin going through it and everything, and this one looks the same here. And then this one is not like the others. Whenever they redid this motor, they put a new piston in cylinder number, what would that have been, 4 back in the day. Not sure why they would have put another piston in there, but yeah, they put another piston in there. It's not like the rest. You can see on this one, it says GM. So this is a factory piston, and this one, you know, it has no markings anywhere. It's just a rogue aftermarket piston. 6 of 71, if you can see that right there. 6 of 71. So this was rebuilt in June of 1971. And on the other side, you can see it says Clevite right there on the inside of the bearing. And when I ordered new bearings, I was able to order Clevite. And here on the bearing, you can see it says 01 of 21. I just thought it was kind of interesting that they used Clevite bearings to rebuild this engine, and 43 years later, it's getting rebuilt again with the same brand bearings. So I got the head on the chopping block here, and I know I said this head was rebuilt, and I took a few of the valves out, and it definitely looks like it was. You can see that bluing compound there in the valve seat. They're using that to see where the valve was seating, and you can see this looks cut. So they probably put new valve seats in it, cut the seats, cut the valves. I'm guessing they put new valve guides in it because there's like no play in this. They probably decked this head and checked it for cracks and everything. I mean, this is it's a rebuilt head. I mean, again, thank Dad in the comments that he had this, that he's letting me use it, because this is saving me from dealing with that one. The thing about it is the machine work doesn't have, you know, an expiration on the shelf life. What's done is done. That'll last forever. But the valve seals, although they're brand new, are like 30, 40 years old. We'll just put new valve seals on it. Valve seal and keepers are on. We'll just pick the old one right up out of there. clean the intake and exhaust manifold surface up and the mating surface between the head and the block. I think you guys will appreciate this. So that hose reel is from Harbor Freight. That's one I bought when I was building this carport. And I found this on Facebook, and this is like an old hose reel from like the 40s or the 50s. It's a Wayne hose reel, and I couldn't find any information about this, but I took it all apart, I cleaned it, I thread taped everything, I lubricated the insides, and yeah, now it's like a cool old working hose reel. It locks and everything. Okay, it's been a few weeks later yet again, and we have our cam back. I've been keeping it in here, trying to keep it away from weather and anything else. So that's the crank. So the cam shaft is in here. Got it back from Oregon Cams. It's ground up, mild performance grind, I guess. And then here's my lifters. Right, they're all resurfaced, nice and flat and true and ready to go. And now that we have all that, we can get cooking, trying to reassemble this thing. So what we're doing right now is I am cleaning the grooves of the piston. Let me run it across so you can see. See it? Hear it just grinding? So you just move it in circles. You know, I actually tried cleaning these grooves with one of the old rings, and I was having a really hard time cutting through that carbon. You want to get it to where you can see the steel of the piston. See, I'm still seeing crap come off of it. That's looking pretty good. So we got Dad over here, and what we're doing now is we're about to pound out the old cam bearings and install the new ones. This is Dad's tool. This is a cam bearing installer tool, and it's also what we're going to use to beat it out. This is your oil hole that oils the crank and it oils the cam. And this hole, if you look through there, you can see daylight. There's actually a hole in that cam bearing right here, and you have to align that hole perfectly, because if you do it like this, the oil can't get through the hole. You're not going to get oil to your cam, so it has to be pretty much perfectly aligned with that hole when you go to install them, or else you're going to tear your motor up. How long have you had this cam tool?
Probably bought it when I was about 21. I've had it. Was that 35 years, 40 years?
35 years. What brand is this?
I think it's Snap-on.
Really?
I think.
You bought this brand new from Snap-on?
You know, evidently I did.
That must have been a fortune.
Yeah, see?
Oh.
Snap-on.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, this is a Snap-on. That's awesome. This is a piece of history right here. We got to keep that forever.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I bought it off the Snap-on truck.
It's coming. Yeah. It's coming. boy. You were within millimeters.
All right, so
Okay.
unloosen me, and make sure you put that cam bearing up on top the way it was. So I mean, I know we know, but it always pays to know for sure.
So it goes like this, and then it goes. Looks to be lined up.
Boy, there sure ain't a lot of room. I don't know if it's long enough. Make sure you're lined up.
Yeah.
Good.
Keep going. Yeah, you're even.
So I know it's going to have to go farther,
Mm-hmm.
but you just want to look and see how close you are. I know we still got quite a ways to go, don't we?
Oh, dude, it's perfect.
Is it?
It's absolutely perfect. See how it's shining through? That's perfect. Absolutely. We can go to the next one. That's it.
Is it good?
Yeah.
You always stop and make sure your cone hasn't worked its way out because you'll be hammering it crooked.
See if that's tight. All right. Keep going. Keep going. More. 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 One more. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it good?
Looks good to me. You're out.
Look, it's factory. Nobody's ever changed them. I wonder if they all say that. Never paid no attention. Yeah. GM, nobody put cam bearings in it.
Yeah, it's going in pretty good. Yeah.
Factory GM cam bearings.
Okay, so I took the liberty of putting the main bearings in, and I put the rope seal in, the rear main seal. It looks like this. It's literally a rope. I mean, it seems like very antiquated technology, but I thought it would come with a rubber seal, but it came with a rope seal, so that's just what we got to put back in it. So I'm going to put some assembly lube. Make sure these are clean. I'm going to put some assembly lube on the main bearings, and then I guess we'll go ahead and get the crank and set it in there. I mean, it's time, but we're going to be careful not to rotate the crank once we set it in, because we got to plastigauge it, the caps, and see if we're within spec on that. So
Set it down easy. Yeah, I'm just trying to
all right.
make sure.
So the plastic gauge starts out as this little green hair that you cut off and put in there. See that, how it smashed it? So this is 1,000th, 2,000ths, 3,000ths. So it's a little smaller than the 1,000th, so we're gonna go right here, and it's almost exactly in this white one, which is 0.0015. So we're totally within our realm of acceptable. That's actually really good. Put the rope seal in the main cap, put assembly lube on all of the caps, put them in, torqued them down. I didn't think you guys need to see me torque things twice. Kind of boring. If you've ever rebuilt engines, you know this, but you always turn everything as you go. So we put the crank in, we turn it. Hopefully it turns by hand. It should. I mean, there's no pistons in it or anything. It should turn by hand.
They're harder to turn.
Good Lord.
I know.
Well, it should turn by hand. Ooh.
Once you start to turn it, it might start turning a little better and easier.
Alright, well, it's not bound up. It's just turning a little tight. If it was bound up, it wouldn't turn at all.
Well, we already seen it on the plastic gauge. It's not bound up.
Yeah. So here is the oil pump, and I had to take the cap off to get the crank in and out. But what we're going to do while we're in here is take the old gasket out, wipe these surfaces off. What you do to help it out, what I'm going to do to help it out is take some petroleum jelly, Vaseline, smear it in there as much as you can, because what it does is essentially it creates a seal in there for a short time, and you can just shove it full, and it will help create a vacuum initially to pull the oil up into the oil pump and through the motor. Now, it's not really maybe it's not a necessary step. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you know, it'll pick it up, but since it's so dry, it might not create enough vacuum to pull it up. But this Vaseline will for sure make a seal. We can go ahead and tighten the main feed line that carries the oil throughout, because you can put all the pistons in with this all connected, but I just had to unhook it just for the crank, so it should be good. Let's see. So the oil gap ring goes on first, and then you have a ring that goes on the top and bottom of that gap ring. So you
want to see what the, where's my book at? I want to see what the rings and gaps are.
and you put the other one on. Then this ring has a dot on the top. That tells you that it faces the top of the engine. You have to watch out for that when you're doing these.
Rings in the right spots?
Yeah.
This is the best ring compressor I've ever owned in my life.
Where'd you get it?
Bought off Snap-on. Man, you want to talk about punching pistons, boy. Pow, 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 you know. Back before this, I had one of them old crank ones. Them old Craftsman crank ones.
I never seen one.
And then when I seen this, I couldn't believe, man, you could bop them pistons right in, man. It used to be so time consuming putting pistons in with them old ones that they had for years. Was it time consuming? And then when I bought this, I couldn't believe that they made something so intelligent.
You guys are getting a lot of history in one video. Not only are we rebuilding an old motor, but we got Dad's cam bearing installer tool that he bought from Snap-on in the 80s. You got this piston ring tool that Dad bought in the 80s. I mean, this is some historical stuff you're witnessing. What we'll do now, we're gonna eat some lunch, and in a minute we're gonna turn the motor over and plastic gauge the rod caps to make sure that they're all within spec. Probably won't show the whole process. If something goes awry, I'll show you, but it's a pretty boring process, so yeah, we'll keep it moving. We plastic gauged the rod caps underneath. Everything looked good. Turned it over. We thread tapped all the holes, brake cleaned them out, blew them out, cleaned the top surface as best we can. Got the head gasket set on there. We're ready to set the head on. And once we set the head on, bolt it down, torque it up, and then we probably will set the camshaft in. But let's put this on first. Right. So you swing your side around.
Actually, we should have dropped a head bolt in there. We're going to drag the head. All right, that's good. I mean, we'll just lift it up and move it around. You think that press is strong enough to press that on there?
Boy, it ought to be. 60,000 pounds ought to go somewhere.
You think that thing will be strong enough to press that on there?
Dad's giving me crap because I just bought this press off of Facebook Marketplace, and I'm all proud of it because it's American made.
Boy, be careful. Make sure you don't go too far. Oh, wait, don't go any farther. Oh, you can go a little bit more. Oh, stop.
So we got the cam gear on, and the little locator plate is still free turning, and the gear is flush, so we're good there. I'm gonna put assembly lube all over the lobes and the main, I guess the main bearing parts of the cam. And then we'll slide it in real easy and time it up. There's a dot pointing to this point of the gear, and there's a dot pointing to this cave part of the gear, and they match up, so our timing is aligned. All is well. What we got to do now is set these lifters in. Had them soaking in oil overnight, just chilling in there. Just drop them in, and then I cleaned off the push rods. So along with the camshaft, I showed you guys earlier in the video how these were concave a little bit. I showed you the light coming through them, and I sent these lifters off with the cam to be redone so I can see where they've cut them. And they just made them perfectly true again, perfectly flat. That's all you want. And since everything's the same, since the cam is ground and the lifters are ground, it doesn't matter what sequence you put them in, you know. A lot of people, when you're putting a motor together, people always say you got to put everything together exactly where it came off, each lifter to the same hole it came out of. But that would be true if you didn't do any of this, because the surfaces mate together once they run together. But these are all brand new surfaces, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so we re-tapped the holes and everything, got everything cleaned up. Now we'll just set them back in there.
It's kind of weird that I guess all it does is just sets down in there.
Yeah.
It's crooked.
So these are torqued to 30. Sure doesn't seem like a lot.
You keep going. If you keep going, you'll find out.
Just how tight they'll go.
Yeah, just how tight they'll go. And then when you strip that thread out of there, you'll have a bad look on your face.
Oh, if I'd put it on right, we might get somewhere. Look at that. Looking better already.
It'll look even better after we paint it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna run up there to O'Reilly and get some gray paint.
So here's the thing about it, all right? This is Dad.
What?
This is me and Dad's qualm.
Paint.
Paint. So to be or not to be, to paint or not to paint, because here's.
You get one vote, I get one vote.
It's like that scene in Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I'm voting for yours truly. Well, I'm voting for yours truly too.
You gotta paint it.
See, Dad thinks I should paint it because I did all this work to the motor. You rebuilt it. You put your heart and soul into it, and you want it to look good, right? So the obvious step is to paint it because you know.
It doesn't matter if the truck's not restored. At least you painted the engine.
I get it, right? We've painted motors. We've done all that.
Yeah.
And I think painting them looks good, but to me, in this case, in this scenario, because we're leaving the truck the way it is on purpose, the way it looks, it'd be like, it'd be like a gold tooth and a crackhead or something. It'd be like, the engine's going to look perfect and the rest of the truck's going to look old, like you just dug it up out of a ditch, and then the engine's going to be a shiny piece of gold, like a gold tooth. And my shtick is it's not going to look right painted because the rest of the truck is going to look the way it looks, not painted. So
I mean, it won't even really actually be any kind of a rebuilt motor if it ain't painted.
So all the work we did is negated if it's not painted.
If it's not painted, you didn't do nothing.
I don't know.
You're going to thank me later.
The comments I did see on previous videos is that I should paint it gray instead of Chevy orange.
Oh no, I wouldn't paint it Chevy orange.
Because obviously by 59 this would have been Chevy orange, but the factory 216 would have been, it was like a gray color.
There you go.
So paint this the gray color as if it was a factory 216, which I do agree with.
I do. Paint it gray.
So we're gonna put the timing gear cover on now. Pounded the old seal out, pounded the new rubber seal in. The reason, well, we were actually gonna put the oil pan on first, but I remembered, luckily, that there's a piece of cloth in there. You have to put the timing gear cover on first because these are sneaky. There's 2 bolts that come in from the back that are covered by the oil pan that hold the timing gear cover on. So yeah, that is a very dangerous thing to get wrong, because you'd have to take the oil pan all the way back off. Yeah, that's not a good idea. You know, they should have just had this plate threaded and put the bolts through this way.
Yeah.
Because that is a bad idea. Wow.
Yeah, and they could have easily threaded this.
Yeah.
You know, just threaded it to where you could catch it on the way in.
So we're about to put the oil pan on. I got all the bolts cleaned off over there on the wire wheel. This is a 4-piece seal. So there's 2 rubber seals on either end, and then there's 2 quart gaskets, and then what you do is you put a dab of silicone on each corner where they meet, help it seal better. Okay, so the motor is pretty much assembled, and we are going to paint it. We're going to paint it the 216 color. So you can see the color of the head was like Chevy orange, because this is a 59 or whatever. And we got some of this from O'Reilly's. It's pretty similar, gray, bluish color. And we're going to go ahead and paint it. I got everything hung up here that's going to be painted black, like the fan, the harmonic balancer, the fan pulley, the generator body, the starter body, the distributor body. Those all get painted black. I like it. So the first coat isn't going to cover up everything. It'll be a little light. You'll still see some previous color shining through it. When you go on the second and possible third coat, that's when you lay it on thick, because you already have a layer to really hook to. If you try and really blast it the first go around, you'll get a lot of runs in it. Plus it's kind of cold, so like what Dad was saying.
Put that coat on, it's like a sticky coat.
Yeah, it's like a sticky coat. Oh yeah, I like that. It's good. You know, I hate the way they put these lids on this thing. All right, so we got the carburetor situation figured out. I put the bottom on top of the one I rebuilt, and it bolted up to the plate on the intake, bolted up to the carburetor just fine. Everything is good there. That means I can use the original fuel line and the vacuum advance line from the 216. Comes across. It looks factory. It looks good. It looks perfect. Going into the fuel pump, going into the vacuum advance. And also I had to do, well, I guess, I don't know if you'd consider it modification. I had to do some switching around. This vacuum advance, the new one I ordered for the 216. The 235 vacuum advance is different, and the 235 mount is different too. So now we have a correct vacuum advance that goes up to the original line. So this is the factory correct water pump for the 235. The shaft is so long that when you put the fan up to it, it will hit the radiator. What you have to do is you either have to get a kit that turns the 235 water pump into a 216 water pump, like this, but you have to drill 2 holes in the block and you have to put a mounting plate in, and the 216 water pump doesn't flow as much water as the correct 235 water pump anyway. So I didn't want to drill 2 holes in this block and mount an original 216 water pump to it because I just didn't want to do that. So the way you have to do it is you have to take the correct 235 water pump and press it into the housing to shorten it up so that it doesn't hit the radiator. But the second problem you have is now your pulleys won't line up. If you put the correct water pump pulley on it, see how deep it is? See how all the pulleys line up? Now if you press this in, say 2 inches, the fan will miss, but now your pulley is 2 inches deeper into the motor and it's going to hit everything and it's not going to work. What I had to do was I did some research online, and they said that a Ford, like a 60s Ford water pump pulley, will match up, and it's shallower. So my friend Ron, shout out to Ron, thank you Ron, appreciate it. He had a 60s Ford fan pulley, and we had to drill 4 holes to fit the bolt pattern on the Chevy.
Is it moving?
No.
Went. There it went.
Oh, that scared me. You know, I didn't know if it was going to go.
Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that.
And to my understanding, it has to go almost, I mean, it goes down there far.
I'd be real careful because you ain't going to go backwards. Well, you might.
We still got a ways to go. I mean, this thing is almost going to be touching that.
Look at that. Pretty sweet.
So now the pulley pretty much aligns with the harmonic balancer. It's extremely close. See how that water pump is hitting right there? Look at that. And the holes. That's crazy. This is going to have to be ground off for it to fit. That's you rotate it, all of your holes, they match up. We'll be able to put it in now. Oh no. Uh-oh. Crap. Alright, that's a tomorrow thing. It's getting late tonight. Ah, crap. Oh no. So, I think we are officially ready to take it off the engine stand. Got it. Okay, so it's a week later from my first clutch install attempt, and what happened was the clutch wasn't right. I only figured that out when I tried to put the pressure plate in. None of the bolt holes were lining up. I was like, what the heck? Well, then I started to actually compare the clutches, which I should have done beforehand. I don't know what was going on, but the clutch was too big and the pressure plate bolt holes wouldn't line up with the original flywheel. So I had to send it back, order another one off of Rock Auto. It's been like a week, it got delayed, yada yada. I verifiably confirmed that all the holes line up now, right? So those are correct. The flywheel is a weird size. That's what I didn't know. So they sell 10, a lot of them are 10 and a half, 10 and a half, or 11 inch. This is a 9 and an 1/8. So it's a 9 and an 1/8. It's a weird oddball size clutch. I did not know that at the time. So now it should fit up in there. Got the pilot bushing all in. That was the hard part, really, was the pilot bushing. So that work's already done. Dad's cleaning out the engine bay a little bit. There was dirt, like level. You couldn't even see that brake line right there. And there was dirt all up in the frame, all up on this transmission. There's just filth and dirt everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, we should be able to pull our little pilot tool out and have a straight shot. Alright, let's get all these things out from underneath it. Sorry.
Alright, now come on in. Alright, I'd like for the front of the motor to go up, but I don't know.
Okay. It feels like it's kind of free floating, like it's not caught on anything. Do you want me to push it back?
Try it again. Jack it up just a hair. All right.
Oh.
All right. See if you can come in. All right. Hold on.
Coming down. All right. Finally, after probably a month and a half of working on this engine, it is sat in there. It's in the motor mount holes, it's lining up with the tranny mount holes, got the transmission sucked up against the engine. So now it's just a bunch of leg work and grunt work that I probably won't film a whole bunch of, because now it's just, you know, hooking up the oil filter canister to the return line and the pressure feed line, hooking up the temperature sender, the oil pressure sender for the gauge, hooking up all the shifter linkages, all the whatnot stuff, clocking the distributor correctly, putting the wires on, all that stuff. So we'll probably get with you a little closer to when we're actually going to start it. And also, now that the engine stand is free, we'll pick this bad boy up, set it on there, turn it over, take the pan off, and see which rod was knocking and see what was going on. Because, you know, it's such a shame. This thing ran like a friggin' sewing machine, but, you know, other than that rod knocking, and it was leaking oil everywhere. So we're cooking here. We got a lot of stuff hooked up. We got the fuel line hooked up. We got the vacuum advance hooked up all the way down to the fuel pump. Got the distributor in, got the cap on, got the points and condenser in that I bought for the 216. I did have the 216 starter on there that I painted. So that's the 216 starter, the 6-volt starter, but a starter that's 6 volts will run fine on 12 volts, but it started giving us problems. So I had to switch to the starter I got when I bought this 235, so it's not painted or anything, but I'll fix that later. Got the coil on it, and I don't have the spark plugs in it because I was turning it around trying to find top dead center so I could clock the distributor correctly. So I'm pretty sure I got the timing all right now. We got the generator on. We got, let's see, all the shifting linkages hooked up. All this right here. I took this little gearbox apart, lubed it up, and put it back together. Took all the old grease out of it. So the shifter linkage is all good to go. Got the fuel temp sender with the adapter put in there because the original 216 temp sender was smaller, so we had to get an adapter and put it in there. Got the oil sender hooked up for our oil pressure gauge. So what I'm going to do right now is clean up the spark plugs we were using on the 216 because they were just fine. I just bought this and I just put this in. This is a spark plug cleaner. It's got a little sandbag here. It's a Vixen spark plug cleaner, model number 12. Santa Fe Springs, California. So this is cool. I have not used this on the channel yet, so I'm kind of excited here. Oh, did I turn the compressor off? So this is what we started with, and this is what we're ending up with. So yeah, it works good. That's pretty cool. So all the spark plugs are cleaned up now, looking pretty good. Before I put them in, I would like to turn this motor over and see if we can read oil pressure before we start it. Let's just see if we can get there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we got it. Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about. We got it. Well, I've crossed my T's and dotted my I's as best I can. I got fuel siphoned to the glass bowl fuel pump that I rebuilt, and the bowl's filled up and everything. It's not leaking. I did hook the exhaust up. All the linkages, everything's hooked up. Coil's hooked up. It's plugged in. If we give it a little bit of juice, you know, it should fire off. If we did everything right, it should go. It's fairly easy, but you know how that works. So all right, I'm gonna do a little spritz. All right, go ahead and try it. Wait. Yeah, it's
Sounds like it. You might need to move that distributor a little bit. It sounded like it was kind of kicking back a little bit.
Advance it or go back?
Probably retarded a little bit. It sounded like it was kind of banging against it.
All right, hold on. Let me get a 1/2 inch wrench. It's not even trying.
Right there. Okay. Oh, wait a minute here. This rotor. You need a new rotor.
Oh, what's wrong with the rotor?
It was all bent sideways.
It was bent.
Yeah. See that's missing. See, this was.
I tried to move it. It was all the way down. I don't know what happened.
I told you.
I'll keep my hand over it, but try it again. I don't know why. I have no idea why it's doing that because the throttle was completely closed.
Ready?
Yeah. Now we can't run it long. We got no water hooked up. We got absolutely nothing in there, but there you go. Running good. Like a sewing machine. Sounds good, yeah. We had to idle it down quite a bit. Last bowl working. Sounds good. Sounds real good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. We did a good job.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, we did a real good job. I am happy with that.
Well, now you just have to put a radiator and fan in it so you can run it a little longer.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep. There we go. TDS5, baby. A hair bit of upper drivetrain noise, a little, but that can all be adjusted out. Oil pressure? Cool. All right.
Runs good.
Runs good. I'm happy. I'm very happy with that. That block it's just full of stuff. I'm sure the inside of this looks exactly what that 235 looked like. You could probably just reach in there and pull out handfuls of rust. Very interesting. This is kind of cool. I've never taken apart one of these. So I guess here's your baffle where stuff would come up. And there's a hole in it. In the yeah, there's some sludge in there. Check out these piston rods. They got the dipper style where they grab the oil. Check it out. That's kind of neat. So I guess that's what they mean when they say these are dipper style motors, because as the pistons are turning, this little shark tail looks like a shark fin coming out of the water. It's got a hole right here, and whenever it comes down, it scoops oil up, and it scoops it, and it pushes it through where it needs to go. So it's kind of interesting. Guess we'll just start shaking rods. Huh. And they shake a little from side to side, but I was expecting something a little more prevalent. Nah, they're not real tight. I mean, you can see that shaking. See that? Those little itty bitty brass things? Those are shims. If the Babbitt wears thin, you can take the shims out and basically it acts like, you know, you can bring the cap closer to the crank and it gives you more life from the motor. Yeah, there's still shims in it. This does not look super wore out. I don't see any copper. I don't know, it doesn't look awful bad. Yeah. This one doesn't look thrashed either. You can see the copper right here, and you can see there's still quite a bit of depth to it, and here's a shim. Yeah. There's your shim. We got a 235 from a junkyard, totally unknown condition. Rebuilt it, completely brand new. Dad happened to have a head for it from an old truck deal. Thank Dad in the comments that he had this completely rebuilt head, because that would have added another, I don't even know, $1,000. Just to show you guys how expensive things are. I mean, you already know, but I said, what did I say? I wanted to do a poor man's rebuild. Reuse everything we can, be as cheap as possible, no performance stuff, no forged pistons and crazy rods and performance cam and performance this, performance that, upgraded valve springs, none of that. I still spent $1,200 on this motor, you know. So it's just what it is. It's just things are expensive out there. I only sent 2 things off to the machine shop, not even the whole motor. I didn't even have any surfaces decked or trued up or anything. After thinking about it some more and wiggling these around, you know, these shouldn't have any play in them at all, and they all have play in them, but number 4 is by far, I think, the worst. So I think number 4 was the one that was giving us our knock. But the crank and everything doesn't look tore up. And you saw those shims in there. You can take shims out and bring it closer, and maybe you could have saved the knock, but really the engine, really, they had this kind of motor in the Model Ts from the teens and the 20s. And cars didn't change much in the 20s and the 30s. In the 30s, you had the Great Depression. Everybody was under pressure. They weren't coming out with a bunch of new technology in the 30s. Cars didn't even change their designs from year to year. I mean, Henry Ford made the Model T for 25 solid years. So it's not like today where they have to come out with a new model every single year. They didn't come out with a new model of everything every year. And then we went from the Great Depression to World War II, where they stopped car production entirely. And then you had the late 40s, which they had just started reproducing what they had pre-World War II, which was the stuff they had in the 30s, which was the stuff they had in the 20s. Even by 1948, 1950, what you're looking at here is technology from the 1920s and 30s. And only in the 50s did they start the renaissance of technology and upgrading engines, and that's when you started seeing a lot of upgrades, real upgrades in engine technology, car technology, durability, longevity, and all that good business. So this is, when I say antiquated, I mean almost from the dawn of cars antiquated. again, Dad and me appreciate you guys. Every view, every minute you watch, we're very grateful. All your guys' views is what helps us to make the money from YouTube to keep doing this stuff. So we're very grateful for that. And we will see you guys in the next one.